Imagine finding an ancient tablet that supposedly reveals something terrifying. Humanity was once surrounded by a mysterious inner noise, and a god named Enki deliberately took it away. If that were real, it wouldn't just change ancient history. It could change the way we think about human consciousness itself. But there's a problem. The famous silence tablet, described in modern videos and internet stories, does not have a secure place in the established ancient Mesopotamian record. There is no well-documented ancient tablet recognized by scholars that says Enki removed a mysterious signal from the human mind. No verified sealed frequency. No ancient signal dampener. No confirmed device designed to suppress human consciousness. So where did this strange story come from? Surprisingly, it appears to be built around something that really is ancient. And the real story is strange enough without the fictional tablet. To understand it, we need to go back thousands of years to Mesopotamia. One of the most important figures in these traditions is Enki, known in Akkadian as Ea. He was associated with wisdom, fresh water, craftsmanship, magic, and the mysterious divine powers known as the Me. In ancient Mesopotamian literature, Enki is often portrayed as a clever and knowledgeable god who understands things that other gods do not. And that reputation makes him the perfect character for modern mystery stories. But the real connection begins with a different word: noise. In the ancient epic of Atrahasis, humanity has been created to take over work that had previously been performed by the gods. As the human population grows, however, something begins to bother the gods. The humans become too numerous, and they become too noisy. That detail is genuine. But here's the crucial distinction. The ancient story is not talking about a hidden frequency inside the human brain. It isn't describing electromagnetic waves. It isn't describing a transmission from another dimension. And it doesn't say that Enki installed or removed some kind of device inside humanity. The noise is the disturbance caused by human activity and population. And the god who becomes especially frustrated by it is Enlil. That changes everything, because the popular internet version takes a real ancient idea and transforms it into something completely different. Human noise becomes an invisible signal. Divine powers become technology. Enki becomes an engineer, modifying the human mind. And an ancient myth becomes a story about humanity supposedly being disconnected from some forgotten form of consciousness. It sounds incredible, but there is no solid ancient evidence for that interpretation. And this is where the story gets even more interesting, because Enki really does have an extraordinary relationship with humanity in the ancient texts. In Atrahasis, Enki is involved in humanity's creation. And when the gods repeatedly attempt to reduce the human population, Enki helps humanity survive. Eventually, Enlil decides on something far more devastating: a great flood. And Enki secretly warns Atrahasis. That part of the story is not a modern invention. It is one of the genuine ancient traditions preserved in Mesopotamian literature. So Enki isn't the god who silenced humanity. If anything, in Atrahasis, he is one of the gods repeatedly working to preserve it. And there's another important correction. The story is often casually described online as a Sumerian tablet, but the surviving epic of Atrahasis is an Akkadian composition preserved in the wider Mesopotamian literary tradition. That distinction matters, because once ancient cultures and languages get blended together, modern retellings can make different myths appear to be one single ancient document. And that's exactly how legends like the Silence Tablet can begin to sound authentic. A real god, a real ancient epic, a real reference to human noise, a real flood tradition, a real concept of divine knowledge. Then modern speculation fills in the gaps. Suddenly the missing pieces become technology, but the surviving texts don't make that leap. The Me, for example, are genuine concepts in Mesopotamian mythology associated with divine powers, institutions, and aspects of civilization. They are fascinating. But describing them as technological devices is a modern interpretation, not something the ancient texts establish. And that distinction is critical, because ancient mythology doesn't need to be turned into science fiction to be fascinating. The ancient Mesopotamians were already asking enormous questions. Why were humans created? What is humanity's purpose? Why are humans mortal? Why do gods possess knowledge that humans cannot fully understand? Why does suffering exist? And what happens when humanity becomes too powerful, too numerous, or too disruptive? Those questions are still recognizable today. That's why stories like Atrahasis continue to capture our imagination. The ancient writers weren't describing modern neuroscience. They were using gods, creation stories, floods, divine decisions, and human suffering to explain the world as they understood it. And Enki sits at the center of many of these traditions as a figure associated with intelligence, cleverness, and the protection of humanity. That makes the modern lost consciousness theory tempting. But temptation isn't evidence. There is currently no reliable ancient source showing that Enki removed a mysterious mental signal from humanity. There is no securely authenticated tablet establishing a silence frequency. And there is no established ancient text demonstrating that humans once possessed a technological form of consciousness that was deliberately switched off. Those are modern additions to an ancient story. But here's the twist. Removing the fictional tablet doesn't destroy the mystery. It actually gives us a better one, because the genuine ancient texts force us to confront a question that is much harder to answer. What did the Mesopotamians actually believe humanity was created for? In Atrahasis, the answer is deeply connected with labor, the gods, and the organization of the world. Humanity is not created simply as a modern concept of chosen beings. Humans have a function. They are part of a cosmic order. And when that order becomes unstable, the gods react. That may sound completely different from modern ideas about consciousness. But underneath the mythology is a question humans still ask today. Why are we here? Thousands of years ago, Mesopotamian scribes were already putting that question into clay. They didn't have modern neuroscience. They didn't have computers. They didn't have the language of frequencies, neural networks, or electromagnetic signals. But they were trying to understand humanity. They were trying to explain where we came from, why we suffer, why we die, and what separates humans from the divine. And perhaps that's why the fictional silence tablet feels so convincing. It takes an ancient question and gives it a modern vocabulary. Instead of saying humanity lost part of its divine connection, it talks about a signal. Instead of describing divine powers, it talks about technology. Instead of mythology, it gives us hidden machinery. The language changes. The mystery remains. But if we're searching for what ancient humanity really believed, we have to resist the temptation to fill every gap with something spectacular. Because the surviving tablets are already spectacular. They preserve stories written thousands of years ago. They describe gods arguing over humanity. They describe humans being created to carry the burden of work. They describe humanity becoming so numerous and noisy that a powerful god wants to reduce its population. They describe Enki secretly protecting a human from catastrophe. And they preserve one of the ancient world's most influential flood traditions. All of that is real. We don't need a fictional signal to make it fascinating. So the next time you hear that Enki gave humanity silence, stop and ask a different question. Not, why was the signal removed? Ask, what did the ancient Mesopotamians actually mean when they wrote about humanity and the gods? Because that question leads somewhere much more interesting. It leads back to the real tablets. The real languages, the real myths, and the real evidence. And perhaps the strangest thing isn't that an ancient civilization supposedly knew a secret about consciousness. It's that thousands of years ago, human beings were already asking questions about consciousness, purpose, suffering, knowledge, and existence that we still haven't completely answered. The mysterious silence tablet may not be real, but the ancient mystery behind the legend absolutely is. And if humanity really did forget something important about itself, the answer won't be found in a fabricated quotation or an imaginary device. It will begin with the words that actually survived in the clay. So what do you think? Were these ancient myths simply symbolic attempts to explain human existence? Or could they contain ideas about humanity that we still haven't fully understood? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to explore more mysteries where the real evidence is sometimes stranger than the legend, subscribe and stay with us.